The date is April 4th. Time is 6:03. Members present are myself, Michael Reynolds, Carol King, and Miss Diane Kuznar, as well as, sorry, I may have run up here. Should have gotten some water before. All members are here and present. And we have our administrator here, Mr. Brandon Madden, as well as our finance director, Ms. Holly Abercrombie, and I don't see, and there's Mr. Mark Putnam as well. So we are good to go. First item of business we have is public comment. Hearing none or seeing no hands raised online. Next, are you checking, Mr. Madden? Very good. Next item I have is going to be the reading and approval of minutes. These are from the Finance Committee meeting dating February 7th, 2022. What do I hear on those?
Motion to approve as submitted.
I have a motion to approve as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous with no additions or subtractions or changes. Next item is going to be reports and communications from our administrator, Mr. Brandon Madden.
Mr. Reynolds, members of the committee, I do not have much in form of a report for the committee. The budget for administration is exactly where it needs to be, with about 2 months remaining in the fiscal year.
We just ended the third quarter and I cannot believe it. Okay, is that all you have? Any questions for Mr. Madden? Hearing none, moving on to our finance director, Miss Holly Abercrombie.
Good evening. The budgets overall look to be in line with where they should be at this time of the year. If there's any particular questions, I'd be glad to field them and answer them.
Any questions for Miss Abercrombie? Hearing none. Last one's going to be our director, Mr. Mark Putnam.
Good evening. How are y'all tonight? Good. Sit on. There we go. Just want to remind you that Thursday, April 28th at 11:30, out behind the Cultural Center, we'll have our awards luncheon that day. Hiltberger's truck will be here, food truck. So be a good time and good food for everybody. And we'd like to invite especially all of council to be there and help recognize our employees that have some anniversaries coming up. We'll have everything from a 5-year anniversary all the way to 25 years. So hopefully y'all can make that.
Always a good time. Thank you for letting us know that. And Miss Miller, I'm sure will send us a calendar invite. Thank you. Okay. Next item is going to be unfinished business. We have none this evening. So we'll go on and move to new business, which the first item is going to be an amendment to the lease agreement with Pop's Creamery. Mr. Madden, would you like to take this item?
Yes, Mr. Reynolds, members of the committee, what you have before you is a request to amend the existing lease agreement that the city has with Pop's Creamery for the Gosnell cabin. The owner of the creamery has requested to pay $600 per month for 10 months as opposed to $500 per month each month, 12 months for the year, because he'll be closed 2 months out of the year. So there's not a change in the overall amount of the lease that will be paid. It's just a number of months that will be paid in the amount. So instead of 12 months at $500 a month, it will be 10 months at $600 per month.
There's no fiscal impact. It's just a change in terms. Okay.
It's a change in terms.
We have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the lease agreement with Pop's Creamery and forward to full council.
Thank you, Ms. King. I have a motion to amend this agreement. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the item? Hearing none. What do I hear? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous. Sent to full council with a recommend to amend the lease agreement with Pop's Creamery. Moving on, our next item is near and dear to our finance director's heart. Would you like to take this, Ms. Abercrombie?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Prior to, I need to go on record. Due to a personal conflict, I need to recuse myself from discussion and voting on this action item.
Thank you, Ms. King.
Thank you.
So noted. As noted, Ms. King is no longer in discussion.
All right, so as you know, we had to go out and find new auditors. The city put out an RFP in February, received one bid, and decided we'd extend it to try to get some more. We did and got 3 total. Love Bailey out of Lawrence, Scott and Company out of Columbia, and Mauldin and Jenkins, which I think their main office is in Georgia, but they do have a Columbia as well. So those were the 3. We had a committee that consisted of Jennifer Harris, myself, and David Deerhog, review them, grade them based on certain criteria, and the winner, the highest value was Scott and Company. So we're coming to ask y'all to approve Scott and Company as the city's new auditors for the fiscal year 22.
Okay. Or there's a motion. Is there entertain any questions for Ms. Abercrombie?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
I'm okay. Okay.
All right. So I would like to make a motion to forward this to full council for review and approval.
Okay. I would like to second that. Any discussion? All right. So there's been a motion made to forward this to full council for review and approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous with those voting. Mr. Madden, would you call Ms. King back in? Thank you. Welcome back, Ms. King. As noted, you're back in chambers. Okay, so next item is going to be public comment. Hearing anybody waving hands online. Very good. Next item is going to be committee concerns. What do I hear from this committee? Any concerns, Ms. King?
Budget meeting Thursday night.
Budget meeting Thursday night. That's mine. Should be an exciting one. Okay. What do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Finance and Policy Committee stands adjourned at 6:12 according to that.
Okay, I am going to call the Building Codes Committee to order. It is April the 4th at 6:12 p.m. All members are present. Taft Matney, Frank Allgood, and myself. We also have the City Administrator, Brandon Madden, and our BDS Director, David Deerhog, in attendance. So at this time, we will go to public comment. Seeing none, what do I hear on approval and reading of the minutes from March the 7th, 2022?
Move for approval. Second.
A second by Mr. Allgood. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, there's none opposed, so the motion carries 3-0. Next, we have reports or communications from our city officers. Mr. Deerhog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things I'll update you on tonight. I'll give you first a brief update on our budget. As you heard in the last meeting, we are 3/4 through the fiscal year, so we have 25% left of the fiscal year. Right now, we're sitting at 30% remaining in our budget, so we're in good shape there so far. Also, Mr. Madden published our monthly report, I believe, this weekend in the report to council. We had, if you can believe it, over 1,700 inspections that we did last month. That easily was a new record again. We also had over 400 residential permits. Over 90 of those were for new homes. Those are also new records we set last month. So we continue to have a lot of new subdivisions and homes being constructed in the city. And we also, you may see that there are some new commercial projects underway, including out on East Butler Road, a Circle K, a Waffle House, and on West Butler Road, an AFC Urgent Care. Those were all projects that were just recently permitted. And you may see dirt starting to turn on those. And lastly, we did have the opportunity to issue licenses for some new businesses. Included among those are the new Waves Car Wash that just opened up on North Main Street. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Deerhog? Thank you, Mr. Deerhog. Okay, we do not have any unfinished business. Our new business is an ordinance to amend CRD zoning ordinance to standards for fences, parking, and sign maintenance. Mr. Deerhog.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Our staff was asked to consider some amendments to the Central Redevelopment District that will further enhance the aesthetic standards for that district, that in being consistent with the city's vision for that area. The city of Mauldin currently has standards in place that pertain to parking surfaces, abandoned signs, and fences, but we have presented tonight a draft ordinance that would further amend some of those standards. As it relates to parking surfaces, right now the city has standards that provide that parking surfaces and driving surfaces are required to be paved, required by ordinance to be paved. What it does not address, though, is vehicles that parked on unpaved surfaces. And so the draft ordinance would amend the CRD district by prohibiting vehicles from being parked or stored on unpaved or unmarked surfaces within the CRD district. The city has standards for signs, that abandoned signs or signs that have been deteriorated beyond 50% of the replacement cost have to be removed. The current provisions define abandoned signs as signs at a property where that business at the property has vacated the site for more than 180 days. This draft ordinance would amend the CRD district by including signs where the sign face has been removed from a structure in whole or in part. And if it has not been replaced within 180 days, it must be removed. And by it, we mean the whole sign. And then lastly, in regards to fences, the city does have some standards in the CRD district that prohibit fences in front of a building. The current standards also require that any fencing that's visible from a right-of-way has to be ornamental in nature. And in the ordinance, it says wrought iron or picket fence. The draft ordinance would amend these standards in the CRD district by prohibiting any chain link fencing, wood privacy fencing, and other walls or fences not of an architectural or ornamental appearance. Appropriate walls and fences would include wrought iron fences, vinyl fences, spaced picket fences, and masonry walls constructed of brick, stone, or split face block. The draft ordinance also adds a maximum height of 4 feet for picket fences and a maximum height of 6 feet for all other walls and fences, except for walls and fences that might be required to screen dumpsters, utility structures, and mechanical or utility equipment. It also has a standard for how far apart the pickets have to be spaced in a picket fence, at least 2.5-inch gap, and barbed wire, razor wire, and similar materials will be strictly prohibited. Any existing fencing in the CRD district which does not meet these standards would need to be removed by January 1. Because this draft ordinance involves amending the zoning ordinance, it will have to go to the Planning Commission, and they will need to hold a public hearing for this ordinance. Tonight, we're presenting it to this committee in case, just to give you the opportunity if you'd like to provide any input or feedback before it proceeds to the Planning Commission in a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Deerhog. First, I would like to say that I like the direction this is going. I would probably prefer to take the picket fences out just because they can go south pretty quick. And I'm not sure that would be appropriate in our CRD with the new developments that'll be coming on and kind of the amount of money and time people are putting into their projects for the CRD. Anyone else? Mr. Matney.
You actually beat me to the punch, but I was also going to include, along with the picket fence, the vinyl fencing. Would you have a whole lot of heartburn, David, if we took out the picket fencing and vinyl fencing? I just know that while it may start out looking fresh, that deterioration does happen quickly. I think if we limit it with the ornamental wrought iron type fencing or the brick, stone, or split face block, we could maintain a certain amount of consistency there. You okay
This
with
is
that?
a bad pun, but I was already on the fence with that.
Dump 'em. Don't forget to tip your waitresses and bartenders. He'll be here all night.
So as far as like the vinyl fencing, I just want to make sure that when someone is putting fencing around their dumpster, what sort of fencing would they need to put if they couldn't use the vinyl?
It's a good question. What we normally see today is the standard wood privacy fences in a lot of the cases. This ordinance takes that out, so it limits the options of what people might use to screen a dumpster already. Vinyl fencing would certainly, we'd expect to be a substitute for that. This would further make that a little more difficult. You'd almost have to really be putting up a brick, stone, or split face block wall to do that, or put in like they're putting next door the Cetera underground dumpsters.
I'm trying to think. Some places where they may have three sides that's brick for a dumpster, but then you've got to have your door. So the door would probably be made of some type of wood or maybe even the vinyl fencing. I'm not sure.
We'd have to anticipate too that if the vinyl fencing were taken out, that would affect City Hall. I believe that's what we have around our back area.
Thank you.
Food for thought.
That was actually one of the reasons why I thought about the vinyl fencing.
With regards to the vinyl fencing, I mean, perhaps there could be a provision in there to specifically say that it's okay to use that around dumpsters.
Could. I easily could do that.
My first question is with regards to the parking surfaces. Given that this is for the Central Redevelopment District, my concern is I immediately thought of it off the chain. There's now parking right near the railroad tracks when they're busy. So I'm just concerned if we don't have adequate enough parking for many of these businesses, where would they park? Do they just need to find? And how would you enforce? I guess that's my question there.
Yeah, and Off the Chain is not in the CRD district, but I can use that as an example. So Off the Chain has a parking agreement with another property owner, a couple of properties down. They should be using that as their overflow parking area. If they're parking on the street, then it sounds like either that's full or they're not really doing a good job of directing people to park in the lot where they have an agreement to do so.
Okay. So with any one of these, whether it be the parking, the signage, for the outdoor fencing, do we know how many businesses would be already impacted with such regulations?
Yeah, a lot of them in one way or another here. You've certainly got some businesses with different types of fences that wouldn't meet the standard. We know there are a couple of businesses that have vehicles parked in unpaved surfaces, and there are some businesses too that have some abandoned signs where there's nothing in the front, including in front of our police department is one of those. But so it certainly would affect a handful of the businesses in this CRD block.
And with regards to the signs in particular, if a business is gone, right? That's what we're talking about. Business is shut down, no longer there.
That's what we currently say, but what we're changing here is to say that if the sign structure, they've taken the sign face out and you just have a frame with nothing in it, if you haven't put a sign back in that within 180 days, we also consider that abandoned and it would need to be removed.
So I guess that was my thought, was if you have a large shopping center where you've got different, I know we're talking about the district, right? But I'm just thinking out loud. If you have a sign that has multiple tenants in it, one leaves, is the requirement that they put something blank up there instead until
that's what we normally see. And so when they do that, that would not be in violation of the spirit of this. And again, this is just the CRD, but this is referring to when there's nothing. It's like it's air. They've taken the whole plate out, not putting. But that's what we normally see is they'll put back in just a blank plate, if you will, where the sign face used to be for a business that has left.
I guess that's where the language trips me up a little bit, because it says signs or sign structures which have been abandoned or unused in whole or in part for a period of more than 180 calendar days shall be removed in entirety. Is that how you pronounce it? So if you do have a situation where you have three signs on top of one another, one is gone, just want to make sure that they know that they're supposed to put a blank sign in and not just leave a light bulb there. And then likewise, if you're saying that they're not supposed to do that, it can't take the whole structure down either.
I get your point. We'll clarify that.
That would be for multiple tenants.
Yeah.
I think we're maybe thinking of a one tenant whose part of their sign may be missing, that type of thing. They will get, should this pass through the planning commission, then those business owners who have part of their sign missing, they will have a certain amount of time before any kind of fines or anything like that go into effect, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Anything else?
Madam Chair, before we make any motions, would it be your preference to hold this in committee until those issues are dealt with so that we can be comfortable with it before sending it to the Planning Commission?
Yes, I would prefer to hold it in committee to make the adjustments on the picket fencing, maybe more clarification on vinyl fencing, where it can and cannot be used, or how it can be used. I'm concerned about the shielding of dumpsters. And I suppose if it were brick on three sides and a wrought iron on the front, or wrought iron on the whichever side would be most beneficial for a trash dumpster to get in, or a trash truck to get in there to empty the dumpster, so that it's not seen from the street.
Madam Chair, I move that we hold this item in committee.
Thank you. We need a second motion on that. Is that a motion? Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion?
Just for clarity, so you'd like this held in committee and not go to the planning commission until it's come back to committee first?
Yes, just until,
I got it. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, none opposed. The ayes have it. All right, now we're back to public comment. No public comments. Any committee concerns? Mr. Matney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This past Friday, Habitat for Humanity had a home preservation project at a house here in Mauldin, taking care of a lady's home. I'm not going to give the address, but there was a lot of time and effort and material that went into making her home safe and habitable. Ms. Kusner and I both went. Although we live in the same neighborhood, we didn't go together and we weren't there at the same time. But we both got to see the program at work. And I told the folks at Habitat that we would be more than happy to have the material regarding that program here for us to distribute because we have residents who need it. And Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'd actually like for them to present to council one night about the home preservation program. But essentially, this is a program that helps homeowners providing low-cost repairs and maintenance for those people who can't afford or can't make the necessary repairs because Habitat wants to keep those residents in their homes whenever possible. There are 3 program tiers. One is minor repairs up to $2,500. Tier 2, significant repairs would cost up to $5,000. Tier 3, major repairs would cost up to $8,000. And there are some program fees that go along with that, but Habitat has a number of local business partners that they work with and that work with them to make sure that these are taken care of. Some of you may have seen Channel 7 do a piece on it on Friday evening, but it was great to have them in Mauldin working with our folks and helping a lady stay in her home. And Madam Chair, that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Anything further? Okay, what do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:31 p.m.
I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for April 4th, 2022. It is 6:33 p.m. I have Mr. Michael Reynolds and Ms. Carol King and Mr. Brandon Madden and Mr. Matt Fleeman here. Start with public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Mr. Mayor, you are public.
Thank you, Chairman Craiglin and members of the Public Works Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'm Terry Merritt. I reside at 214 Fairfield Drive, which is in the city of Mauldin, South Carolina, 29662. Check out the boxes there. Just briefly, as mayor of Mauldin, I sit on the GPAT Policy Committee. I'm one of approximately 31 members. In my year or so on that committee, I've seen our East Butler Road project delayed several times. I also see the Fix Woodruff Road Congestion Relief Project get assigned priority 1 and continue to move forward. That's the topic for another day. Tonight, I wanted to provide you with some data facts that hopefully you were able to glean in the limited time you have had on your agenda data packet tonight. This Fix Butler Road project MOI. I'd like to focus on a couple of tangible areas that will affect our citizens of Mauldin in direct neighborhood contacts. Miller Road is proposed to be closed and abandoned from approximately 1221 Miller Road past South Oak Forest Drive, eastward past Frankie's Fun Park, and then to come to an expanded intersection just prior to the railroad tracks on the Woodruff Road, and then on the Woodruff Road, as well as right into Park Woodruff Road. This will have entrances to Frankie's Fun Park, the at-home store, and Hamrick's, and on to IHOP. No red lights are planned at Woodruff Road at IHOP. New traffic circle is planned to take traffic toward former South Oak Forest Drive into Oak Forest and Pine Forest subdivision of Mauldin residents. If you look online at revised proposal section 1 and section 2, you'll notice the Woodruff Road congestion relief brings potentially more through traffic to the entranceways to the Pine Forest and Oak Forest residential communities. Does that fit our residents in this fairly tranquil neighborhood? All eastbound Miller Road traffic coming from Mauldin, Five Forks via Bridges Road, Corn Road, and Miller will now be forced to negotiate 2 traffic circles in order to get to the current Miller Road, Woodruff Road intersection. 2 new bridges built, one over I-85, 7 lanes, and the second one over I-385, 9 to 11 lanes. 5 in total new roundabouts. Same connections to Woodruff Road, so where does congestion possibly go? Possibly toward Mauldin on Miller, possibly past entranceways to Pine Forest and Oak Forest, and I haven't even mentioned Smith-Hines Road. Several months ago, the GPAT staff, the City of Greenville Mayor and the Greenville City Administrator, as well as then current Chairman of County Council, requested myself and Mr. Madden join them for a meeting to discuss Woodruff congestion relief for those municipalities to be affected. Mr. Madden and myself were both already scheduled to be out of town. We suggested a rescheduled date. They went ahead with that meeting. Upon returning to Mauldin, Mr. Madden called them several times for an update on a possible meeting. Their response was, those affected went ahead and met and made necessary decisions to move forward. Based upon tonight's committee members having more time as needed to review the website and various options, especially as it affects our citizens, plus SCDOT has another public information meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, Tuesday, April the 5th, at Beck International Academy, 901 Woodruff Road, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with all the drawings and their staff to discuss. I would suggest and ask this committee to consider holding this item in committee and avail yourself of the educational opportunities available in order to best make a decision for your Mauldin citizens. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other public comment? Mr. Madden, anything online?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Move on to reading and approval of minutes from March 7th, right here.
I'll make a motion that the Public Works Committee meeting minutes from March 7th, 2022 be approved.
Second.
Sorry, and a second. Any discussion?
No, Mr. Chair.
On that, I move for approval. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. It gets approved. Reports or communications from city officers.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, we're 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. We should have approximately 25% of our budget left. Like many times before, Public Works is 6 budgets, and they vary and range from 25% up to 49% remaining for the fiscal year. 49% is sewer. That value is always a little skewed because we don't deduct the depreciation until the end of the year. But other than that, everything is right on track to where it needs to be. We're spending within our means and we're getting done what we need to get done.
Questions?
Are we waiting for any equipment currently?
Yes, we are. There is the all capital purchases from this year's budget. There is a Ram 3500 dually that's for sewer. There's the VACCON truck, which is the sewer jetter vacuum apparatus. We're waiting for that. And then we're also waiting for 2 sidearm trash trucks.
Any ETA on the sidearm trash trucks?
No, not at all.
Very good.
I do know that the VACCON truck did roll off the line. So the cab and chassis were manufactured and the truck was shipped to Vactor for them to start assembling everything else onto the truck, which can take 30 to 60 days. So fingers crossed, in a month or so, I should see it. And I spoke with the dealer for the Ram 3500 dually. It hasn't even gone into production yet.
Okay.
So we'll just try to encumber those funds and
Just wait. Thank you, Mr. Fleeman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Flynn. All right, unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. Now on to new business. Memorandum of understanding.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, so what you have before you is an agreement between the city, Greenville County, City of Greenville, for a memorandum of understanding as it relates to the Woodruff Road Congestion Relief Project. If you look at page 8 of your agenda, it breaks down what council would be entering into and be responsible for as the city of Mauldin as for this agreement. Construction of this project is slated for 2026. And through this MOU, the city would essentially commit to making sure it informs the public of the project, impacts of the project, and also adopt an area plan. I'll ask Mr. Deerhog, who's been involved in the GPATS meetings where this has been discussed, to kind of elaborate on the plan, on the area plan, if council has questions about it, that they would have to adopt as a part of this. But essentially the plan would do things such as eliminate the number of curb cuts that will be allowed along that corridor project. And it's things for council to consider as development in Mauldin creeps that way. So that's a high level overview of what the city will be committing to by approving this MOU. And I'll address any questions that council may have.
Mr. Madden. Well, first of all, any questions?
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify what was spoken earlier. Is that all correct to your knowledge?
It's as far as I recall. Mm-hmm.
Make sure. All right. Any other?
My comments were fairly simple. This seems like one of those things that, 30,000 foot view, the idea of memorandum of understanding with the other two entities is always a good idea. But I also see this as being something that comes back to bite us. So it sounds like the opportunity was for us to be at the table and the meeting moved on, which concerns me for our citizens. So, big picture, sure, this sounds good, but it sounds like they've moved on anyway. I don't know that there's much for us to have a memorandum of understanding about. I have concerns from pictures only before Mayor Merritt brought them up. From the pictures only, I have concerns with all of what they were proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mr. Reynolds. As I was reading through the packet, as like most of you, I assume it was my first time of seeing this, and I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was surprised that I did not know that the city was involved in this memorandum at this point in time. So my question is, and for Mr. Madden or Mayor, I'm sorry, I was looking at some mapping when you were talking and I missed. Did you say that there was a public meeting to be planned, or that would potentially be requested? Thank you. Tomorrow night. Perfect. And they will have renderings and drawings, et cetera, like they normally would. Okay.
Holding this committee, does it do anything except for just let it, is it actually, it is not going to stop anything. We don't have any, nothing but saying this does not look like a good idea.
No, it will not stop the process.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
has our legal advisors looked over this?
Yes, legal reviewed the MOU. So this process is going to be similar to what the city is going through with the East Butler Road project. DOT is managing it, federal dollars, so they have the NEPA process. So, but this wouldn't delay that. Not voting on it or holding it in committee.
Mr. Chair, based off of what we've heard tonight, I have no problems with holding this item in committee so that those who wish to attend tomorrow night can put their eyes on some larger photographs and routes, et cetera, so that we can have a better understanding moving forward.
Trying to, I don't want to cause too much think, because what I'm thinking in my mind and what I want to say, what I can say out loud are not the same things. On that note, I think I'm just going to keep quiet. Yeah, on that. So on that, we don't do, so I would, at this time, someone would like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second the motion made to hold in committee.
Motion.
Can be. I don't think do we even have to motion to leave it?
I think we have to, we don't do anything.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So on that note, I'm not going to do anything unless anyone. All right.
We'll hurry up and wait. Mr. Chairman, it probably would not be unwise to have Mr. Deerhog is here and prepared. It probably would not be unwise to have him speak on the matter while he's here.
I'm sorry. Did you repeat that?
I said Mr. Deerhog is here and probably prepared to speak on it as well. It would not be unwise to hear what David has to say.
Thank you, committee members. I was just going to give you just a little more overview of where this stands in this process. This month, the city of Greenville is also going to be reviewing this memorandum of understanding in a workshop setting. And Greenville County had one of their committees, well, maybe the committee of the whole will review it in a workshop setting as well. So certainly the committee holding this and taking some time with it will not be a problem at all. And Mr. Madden is correct when he said or answered the question that if we do not participate in this memorandum of understanding, does it affect the project? It does not, except for just working with the other jurisdictions to have a mechanism in place when the project is done that will control access along the way. I also just wanted to, by way of information, let you know that the DOT is working with the same consultant that they are working with on the East Butler Road. So that may provide a little insight as to how effective our conversations have gone so far with trying to influence their design on the project. But this whole month of April, I believe the DOT is receiving comments from the public for this project, and the public is able to comment online if they wish. Lastly, I'll comment too, we have been trying to prod them to have a specific meeting for the Pine Forest and the Oak Forest neighborhoods. That has not been scheduled yet, but we'll continue to push for them to schedule a meeting specifically with those neighborhoods so they can receive some comments back on the design proposals they have.
So they will.
Thank you, committee.
Mr. Chair, can I ask,
Please.
Mr. Hawk, so in the future, if this memorandum of understanding is approved through committee and goes to council, would that give you and Mr. Madden the opportunity to sit at the table, so to speak, and have more input than you would if we did not participate, as far as what happens traffic flow wise within the city limits of Mauldin?
No, it won't necessarily open up any additional doors to us that are not already open. I do participate regularly with the staff of Greenville County and the staff of the city of Greenville to discuss this project. I don't know. It doesn't sound to me like necessarily the administrators are doing the same, but at least on the staff level, that is happening and will continue to happen whether or not the city is a party to this memorandum of understanding.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds, sorry. All right, on that, go to public comment. Second. Let's make sure no one else has anything to say, put him last. Else?
Terry Merritt, still in the city of Mauldin, still at the address, as it was a few minutes earlier. Just a couple more information. I tried to keep it brief and I cut out some things. You know, I'm not going to get a personal here. The fixed Woodruff Road congestion relief economic development corridor for the city of Greenville is moving forward. You know, they've got their money lined up. The MOI I found interesting because they're presenting an MOI for us, our consideration, for a project that is in the right-of-way discussion with their DOT's process for 2026. Our East Butler Road project is to be let sometime late 2024. Where's your MOU for our East Butler Road project? And we're going to be ahead of them, supposedly. A concern that I voiced on the GPAT was the fact that we keep kicking the funds for the East Butler Road down the road. And it's not a funding issue. We have the money for East Butler Road. And the Woodruff Road congestion relief is a priority one. It keeps moving forward. You read whatever tea leaves you want to read. We've seen that. We've had the discussions. There's no stopping the juggernaut. It's going forward, hopefully with our East Butler Road project and our fixed Woodruff Road congestion relief. I find it interesting, if you look at your MOU, it talks about we are supposed to hold to new standards where we doesn't get another bypass congestion. So when you're reviewing your drawings the next couple of days and theirs, notice the new congestion relief corridor. Notice the new homes, townhomes and apartments that are already being built on that suggested congestion relief. So, yeah, I'm not smart enough to understand how you fix congestion. The first thing you do, you put a couple of hundred townhomes or apartments on the dirt right next to where you're talking about building relief. That relief is coming to two of our residentials that are fairly sleepy residential neighborhoods in Pine Forest and Oak Forest. And I'm like, David, I keep looking, where is that group from Pine Forest, Oak Forest? Do they even know this is going on? I know it was posted on Facebook and Nextdoor last week by a person to remain anonymous to say, hey, this is going on. You need to be out there and talking about it. So all I'm saying is collect all your facts. No, we can't stop it. There'll be an MOU that we'll probably one day pass and approve kind of thing, but it just, congestion is already occurring on the new congestion relief corridor. So I just hope we can get East Butler Road done before there's another congestion relief project number 5 for Woodruff. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Move on to committee concerns.
No, Mr. Chairman, I would just comment this is pertaining to Rex also. The Public Works had the fields looking fantastic over the weekend for opening day for the rec department. So we'll shoot them both while they're in here. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
On this discussion, previously, I'm going to make a little comment here. I think I'd like to thank the chairman for not using any profanity or poor language as far as what we just saw there coming from the South Carolina Department of Transportation's plan for Woodruff Road. He did a great job holding back and keeping that to himself. All right. No, I said the chairman. Yes. Yes, referring to myself. So on that, what do I hear about for adjournment? A second.
Second.
Those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. We adjourn.
Okay. We'll call this meeting the order of the Recreation Committee is April 4th at 6:57 p.m., or we can round it up to 7. All members of the committee are here, as well as our Recreation Director. First point of order is public comments. Do we have any? No public comments. Reading and approval of the minutes from February 7th.
I'll make a motion the Recreation Committee minutes be approved as submitted for February 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously, 3-0. Next, we'll have the report from our Recreation Director.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Budget's in pretty good shape. There's a few things in recreation we're going to have to clamp down on that we're getting a little tight on. Other than that, we're doing good. Matthew left. I want to thank you to Public Works, the police, and fire. Over the past weekend, we had Mr. Allgood and Mr. Madden were out at opening day. We had a lot of folks. Mr. Allgood threw a good pitch to my son. He was catching, so he did a good job with that. And we have our egg drop coming up this Saturday. So love for everybody to come out and see how it goes. We never know what the numbers are going to be like. So have a whole lot or a few. Hopefully I have a whole lot. So that's all I have. We're out there playing right now. That's where I just left from Sunset Park. So we have flag football on Mondays and Wednesdays and baseball on Tuesdays and Thursday. And me and Mr. Madden out there 4 days a week. So the guys are doing a real good job. Willie and Andre and Blake, because recreation, you've got to wear a lot of many hats. And so those guys are doing a good job, and I could not do that without them. So thanks again, Mr. Allgood, for coming out this past Saturday.
My pleasure. It was a little bit outside though, when I threw it to.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah,
Lefty curve on it.
that's right. That's right. I'm a lefty. Any other questions with regards to the budget review?
No, Mr.
Not budget review, but a question for Mr. Cumlander. Am I or am I not cooking hot dogs on Saturday?
We are not doing hot dogs this year. So
I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. There is no unfinished business. As far as new business, this was brought to my attention by Councilmember Matney. There was someone who approached him about sponsorship at the Pickle Yard, and of course, Pickle Yard is private property. So we then decided to bring it up with regards to whether or not sponsorship could take place with regards to our recreation department, particularly the senior center, since they have pickleball courts. I may ask you again to come forward and explain to us a little bit about sponsorship. What can and can we not do? What have we done in the past? And let's start there.
In the past, the only time that I remember us, taking sponsorships is when we had a Dixie Youth Board, and that organization would be formed as a committee. You'd have a president, vice president, and you'd have a person over each age group. And that money would come into them. They would have their own bank account. The city never really touched it. What they did is they turned around and either gave something back to the city, put something in the baseball program, buying baseballs. The city historically always bought the uniforms, and they would just help whatever the needs that the city might need throughout the baseball season. They would help out with sponsorship, and it would be two forms of sponsorships. One that would be on the sleeve with their company name on the sleeve. If you wanted a bigger donation, you'd have a sign out in the outfield, and they would put it out there as well. So, and once again, that money would go back if the recreation director back then would say, hey, guys, we need a scoreboard or something like that, or we need some bases. And it would help offset some of the costs for the recreation department back then to utilize that. And so I would refer back to Mr. Madden on what we can do now, because we do not have that board anymore. And so how would we if we would do that, how we would do that. So I'll refer to him on that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Cumberlander. The sponsorships could work a couple of ways. The city could just openly solicit and accept sponsorships, as long as it's clear what the sponsorship will be used for. So if it's naming rights or having a banner displayed at the senior center at this pickleball courts, that could be a direct sponsorship to the city. The city would just have to accept it and accept the sponsorship and follow up with whatever is attached with it.
So that would require multiple actions on the city's part for each sponsorship.
Yeah, for each sponsorship. Mm-hmm.
So when it says here that the city does not accept sponsorships, is there any law on the books that say we can't?
No, the city right now, as I'm aware, is not actively soliciting sponsorships. And Mr. Cumberlander, correct me if I don't have the history correct. Currently, all of the city's activities are fully funded. There's no funding gap there with any of the recreational programs. I don't know if that's always been the case historically. There may have been things that were needed in the past whereby a sponsorship could assist in filling a funding gap that may have been there. So right now, the need for the city to solicit sponsorships is not there for pickleball. But that doesn't mean the city cannot do it to bring awareness to the community about pickleball. And the senior center is extremely active, and they have a lot of users there every month that could bring visibility to a business that is using the pickleball court. The other option is the city could work with a nonprofit, such as a board or a recreational group or just any nonprofit that may have an interest in accepting sponsorships on behalf of the city and then relaying that sponsorship funds back to the city. There are a number of ways they can be done. There's nothing that's saying it can't be done. Just right now, the city isn't actively soliciting for sponsorship for pickleball court.
So this would go across any entity. So like if the cultural center all of a sudden came and said, hey, we want to name this the Terry Merritt Cultural Center, if we could entertain that.
Yes.
If he's willing to write a giant check. And I don't just mean on a big check, actually a giant check.
So in this particular case, Chairman Matney, you can refresh my memory. This came from an outside group that was looking at the pickle yard, and we said to ourselves, okay, what about the senior center, because they have pickleball courts? You didn't say that, I said that. But I guess at this point, we know that we can pretty much do sponsorships whenever we want to a degree. So I don't know if we need any kind of action, but I would like to hear any thoughts you had since you did forward it to me.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the genesis of it. They wanted those naming rights, and we don't control what that is or what that looks like. But yeah, I did feel that there may be an opportunity for some of our facilities if someone wanted to sponsor or purchase naming rights for a finite period of time. Just making sure, though, that avenue is available, because I knew that it had been closed off for a good while. But I think not only would we need to get the terms of those agreements locked in, we would have to have some standards in place as far as what that money would be used for. Would it be per facility? Would it be per program? I think that there's just a lot to work through and talk through before we put a presentation together to present to full council. I'd be curious what other cities do. Is this a situation where we're reinventing the wheel? I don't know. Maybe we could check with neighboring municipalities and ask what their sponsorship programs or their naming rights programs look like.
We could set those parameters, correct?
Correct.
I remember my kids when they were playing, was it Land O'Lakes? It was on the back of them?
Land of Frost.
There you go.
It was a lunch meet. I don't know if it's Land of, but anyway, it was Land of something. But yes, you are correct. They would give the city, and once again, that at that time that went through, it did go through Dixie Youth, and then Dixie Youth went away, and then the city did take that money and that gave them the right to put Land of Frost or the lunch meat on the back of the jersey. So, in just my opinion, I'm okay with doing that. I think you have to be very cautious. Sometimes people get a little heartburn if I don't think anybody in our department would go out and solicit money and ask for money, because people say, well, I pay my taxes. Why do you need more money to operate city recreation stuff? So I have my opinion. I don't mind ever taking any money, but I think we need to be careful as a city, in my opinion, by doing that, because I think you want to encourage people to, when they play ball, is city dollars. And so we got to just be careful with that. And again, I'm not against it. I just think we got to make sure, like Taft, Mr. Matney was saying, I think we need to make sure we got some guidelines on how to do that and make sure people, are doing the right thing. For all the reasons, yes, we would like to do that, but, just got to make sure it's the right way.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. I'm fine with it. Go right ahead.
Any type of gift to the city can only use for public purposes. We can't turn around and support a private pickleball court or private leagues or something. But the second thing is, when you get into this, and the thing that came to my mind hearing this happened in Great Falls when the Queen of the Wiccans of South Carolina said, if you're going to have outside people lead the prayer for city council, I'm Queen of the Wiccans and I want to lead the prayer at one of council meetings. And you could get the Wiccans show up here and want to sponsor a pickleball court or whatever, and how are you going to turn them down if you accept others? And so, you know, it's going to be awfully hard to set a criteria where you don't end up with people that you really don't want to sponsoring. And I just tell you that because if they want their name out there as a sponsor, it gets to be a sticky widget. It can be very difficult.
With that said, does that mean that the way that the sponsorship was previously, where it went through a board, did that help carry some protection?
Mr. Allgood, I wasn't involved in that, and I don't know the details and couldn't really render an opinion. And I just want to bring to y'all's attention that it's not as simple as it seems, and it gets complicated when you're a public body and you're serving the public, and then you start getting some private enterprise in some way involved. You know, I'm more comfortable if it's a charity wanting to make a charitable gift. They're in that purpose. But when it's being done for commercial reasons, then it gets more complicated in the decision-making for you all and how you distinguish it to make some acceptable and others not, and not just on what you like and don't like. So I just want to tell you all that. And we would need to take a careful look at it if the will of council is we try it if we can. Then we'd want to take a very careful look at how to do this and under what conditions our courts have said we can do this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is there anybody else for public comment, round 2? Seeing your head shake, meaning no, I will move on to committee concerns. Hearing none, what do we say about adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 7:12.